Hi, I'm Kitty, and this is how you sew the Newt. So firstly, in your kit, you'll get a 6-inch embroidery hoop, a needle threader, a sampler, which will teach you all of the 6 stitches that you'll need for this piece. This is what the sampler looks like completed. So the 6 stitches you'll need to know are backstitch, whipped backstitch, chain stitch, lazy daisy stitch, satin stitch, and French knots. So if you don't know how to do any of those, go back and watch that video. That video also takes you through things like threading your needle, making a knot, starting your piece, finishing your piece, all of that kind of thing. So you can go back and watch that. You'll also have 2 needles, one big and one small. There is a cheat sheet, which has got some tips and tricks here, a link to this video. It's got your drawn design here, so you don't have to keep going back and watching this video, and it's also got substitutions, so if you don't want to do any of the stitches, you can substitute them for other ones. And it has a key. So your 6 skeins of thread correspond to the numbers on the key. And your design, which is digitally printed on this washed Irish linen, so it's super clear. You'll also need a pair of scissors. Any pair of scissors will do. And this is really optional, but for this video, I'm using an embroidery stand because it's just useful to be able to show things. Some people really like these. They're super cheap to buy. I personally don't like them when I'm embroidering on my own because I like to be able to have the hoop in my hands and turn it this way and that, but yeah, that's up to you. So the first thing you need to do is to secure your fabric in your hoop. I'm actually using a bigger hoop for this video because it's just easier to show lots of different things at once. Yours is just a small version of this. So you get 2 pieces of the hoop, one with no metal thing, one with a metal thing. So you put your one with no metal thing underneath, metal thing on top. There's probably a more professional word for that, screw. And then you want to tighten it pretty tight. You want the fabric to be quite taut. Then you want to thread your needle. Use whichever needle you prefer. Generally smaller needles are for the more fiddly bits, bigger needles are for the bigger bits, and choose which bit you're doing. So in this piece, I'll be starting with the orange stars. So I will take my orange thread, cut about a 30 to 40 centimeter bit of the thread, and you want to separate out your strands. So I don't know if you can see, but all of these threads that you're given come in strands of 6, and you want to separate them out into strands of 3. So I think there are better ways of doing this. Everyone has their own way, but I just tap it very gently. And pull it like that. Not too fast. Otherwise you'll get a knot. Then you want to make a knot. The way I make a knot is just by wrapping it around my finger once and rolling it down my finger and pulling it, but you can just make a double knot. Thread your needle. If you want to use the needle threader, there are instructions on how to do that in the sampler video. If you're finding it difficult to thread your needle, either use the needle threader or just cut the very end bit off and go again. And then you're ready to go. So there are no correct bits of this to do first. You can start whichever bit you like. You can do it in any order you like. I like to start vaguely in the middle and work my way out so that you can sort of count how many border bits you've got to go, and you can sort of tell how long it's going to take. So I am going to start with satin stitch, which are used for these orange stars here, for these red and blue zigzag lines here, for these yellow little splodges, and for the blue insides of these border flowers and these yellow dots here. So satin stitch is one of the easiest things to do. it's basically like the colouring in stitch. It might look more complicated because there are some of these sort of quite confusing, or not confusing obviously, multi-sided shapes like the stars and these things here, but I've given you guidelines on the inside, so that should just tell you where to go. So instead of sewing this all as one big star, you're really sewing it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 diamonds. So a tip with pointy shapes like triangles, diamonds, is that you don't want to start right at the end, like here. You want to start a bit further down, because otherwise you have to start with a tiny little stitch and sometimes it doesn't work. But you want to basically just loop your needle round and round the shape until it's filled in. If you've made a little mistake like I have here, I've accidentally gone inside the black line instead of outside it, just go over it. And remember that the black lines that we've printed don't wash out. So in some embroidery kits, the lines wash out after you've sewn them, but they don't here. So always sew, especially in satin stitch, outside the line instead of inside. So that is one diamond. Sorry, I realised halfway through that I chose literally the biggest one, so sorry if that was quite boring. But so once you finish that, then you just carry on going around this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, until you've got your star. Then you do all that. And so the same goes for these yellow patterns here. Sew this bottom one first in the same way as this. So just keep looping around, then sew this middle one, then sew this top one to make a shape, as opposed to trying to do the whole shape as one. These little triangles, pretty self-explanatory, just remembering to sew outside the black, inside the black lines, soz. The little dots. So yeah, I think that is all of your satin stitch. I will quickly show you as well how to finish your piece. So once you've done the segment you're doing, or you finish your thread, just turn it over. On the back, carefully not to go through the fabric, just do 1 or 2 small stitches to make a knot and cut. Cut quite short, because if you've got long dangling threads hanging off the back of your fabric, you'll get knots. So the next bit I'm going to show you is backstitch. So for this piece, the backstitch is used for the borders, for the writing, for these green outlines of the flower border things, and for the eyes, the outlines of the eyes. Actually, also backstitch is used for the yellow insides of these flowers. So initially on this one, I've done it as French knots, but some people have tested it and they said that it was just boring and I think intolerable was one of the words used. So you can do French knots if you want, but actually I would recommend that you use single backstitches like this. This is one my mum did. She was the one, in fact, that used the word intolerable. And instead of doing French knots, she's done little single yellow backstitches, which actually I think looks better. If you're watching this, Mum. So I'll just show you how to do a simple backstitch. Backstitch is probably the easiest stitch, and maybe some of you have done it in the past or have had experiences of it. I'll show you how to do this green outline quickly. So you just come up with your needle, the end of the line you want to do, it doesn't matter where, and then maybe 3, 4, 5 millimeters up. Just make a small stitch and then basically just sort of keep going up and then back round I guess that's why it's called backstitch. There we go, so there's a one line of backstitch, quite straightforward. And for the middle bits of the petals, I haven't drawn anything in here, but you can just do 3 small stitches. So 1, and then not a line, leave a space, 2, and then 3. Like that, all the way down. I will just quickly show you how to do the writing as well, because people feel worried about doing the writing, but there's no need. It's actually one of the easiest bits. So you just come up and just each straight line is 1 stitch. The next stitch I'm going to show you is the whipped backstitch, which is, as you can guess, quite similar to the last stitch. So you can either use a whipped backstitch with 1 colour, which makes a really bold line for the outline of the newt, or the outline of his legs, or the little circles, or you can use it with 2 colours, which makes a stripy effect, like these green and yellow diamonds here. You also use it for this yellow diamond here, and I think that's it. So for the whip backstitch, you basically want to start off with just a normal backstitch, which I actually won't show you because that will be boring. So I've backstitched the leg here. I've also done 3 little claws in backstitch, which I forgot to mention in the last part, but they are also just 3 little stitches. So then to whip it, you want to go up from the end of the line with your needle and then just loop your needle through the stitches that you made, remembering to always go in the same direction. And then, because this line ends and another one begins, you can just put your needle back through there, start at the edge here, and start again, just twisting your needle. And that is your whipped backstitch with using 1 colour. So for a whipped backstitch using 2 colours, again, exactly the same thing. You start with a backstitch line, which I will just do now quickly. So I have done half of this backstitch diamond. Obviously in real life you would do the whole thing, and then you get your second colour and just do exactly the same thing. So you come up from the end point and just twist your second colour through Just remember, if you're doing the stitch and you've got another pattern near it, so say if you're doing the stitch and you'd already done these triangles, just go slowly so that you don't get your needle stuck in that pattern, because then it gets quite messy. So yeah, you basically just go through like that all the way around. The next stitch I will show you is the chain stitch. So the chain stitch is just used for these red sort of outline diamonds here and for the inner ear. If you're not comfortable with chain stitch, or you've done it on the sampler and you just don't like it, or you can't make it work, just substitute it for a single line whipped back stitch like this one, and no one will know. It will definitely be easier. So I always like to do chain stitch that's going away from me, so I'll just move it here. Start at the point want to start at. Bring your needle through, pull it all the way through and keep this thread sort of in sight. Then you get your needle back down through the hole that you came in, pull it sort of halfway through, and then get your needle and about 3 millimeters up, a normal stitch size up, just pull it up so that it loops through like that. So again, down, up and through. The key with chain stitch is just to go really slowly and gently, because otherwise it's quite easy to get knots in a chain stitch, but just take it slow. And when you want to finish your line, just make one very small stitch at the end like that, pull it through, and that's your chain stitch. The next thing we're going to do is the lazy daisy stitch, really similar to the chain stitch, and there's only one place where we use it in this piece, which is on the nose for this nose pattern. So you want to start at the end of the line, bring your needles through, keep this in sight like for the chain stitch, back down, and as if we were making a really big loop for the chain, come back up to the middle, pull it through, and instead of going on, just secure it. And then just keep going. Do the other side, up, keep that in sight, down, up here, and down. It doesn't matter if they kind of overlap a little bit or look a bit messy. So the last thing I'll show you is French knots. They're definitely the hardest stitch on the piece, and some people really can't get behind them. They just find them tedious, they come unravelled. So if you don't want to do them, just do single back stitches like we did on these inside petals. Just do like that. You can see Mum, not to shame her obviously, but doesn't like to do French knots. She's had a go here and they're not great, so she's decided to go for that. So definitely do that. So they're on the ears here and in the middle of the eyes. So I haven't given you any dots to guide you because they're so small that either the dots didn't show up or the dots showed up too much, but you just need to look at your picture and work out where the dots go. So on the ears, for example, they just go down in lines maybe half a centimetre apart from each other. So start at the end here, bring your needle all the way through, hold this piece. This is the one stitch where an embroidery hoop is actually quite handy because it's really handy to have both your hands free. But you can do it with a hoop as well. So hold this, wrap it around your needle just once, and the key to French knots is you don't then put the needle down through the exact hole that you came up through. Go a tiny bit to the side, either one way or the other, doesn't matter. Down to the side like that, hold this, and then pull through. So again, up, round, down, holding this, and through. The knots have to be quite sort of tight and flush against the fabric, otherwise they'll come unravelled, and then once you finish the piece, they're quite hard to redo. So up, round, and down. There we go, there's your French knot. So that is it, I think. If I've accidentally left anything out, or you've got any questions, just get in contact and we'll help you. Once you've finished, you can buy a framing kit and a frame from us so you can hang it on the wall, or I mean, just do anything you like with it really. So yeah, I hope you enjoy.